Heartwarming moment. Millionaire discovers incredible truth as elderly couple collapses in the street. On a sunny afternoon in Atlanta's affluent suburbs, Jack Thompson, a 38-year-old tech CEO, strolled past the bustling community center, mind swirling with financial projections that felt more important than life itself. Gleaming with success, his sleek car, stylish suit, and neat haircut served as armor against the world. Yet, inside him was a vast emptiness, a distant echo of what true connection felt like. That all began to change when he spotted the Andersons, the beloved elderly couple of the neighborhood, making their way to the local bakery. The cheerful chatter around him faded as he watched the Andersons stumble and fall, their world tipping over like fragile porcelain. Gasps escaped the crowd. Some turned away, their faces filled with indifference, as if the collapse was merely an inconvenient pothole on their journey. But Jack couldn't look away. Something deep inside him ignited, a flicker of compassion forcing him to break from the corporate rhythm of his life. "Call 911, Jack shouted, rushing toward them, heart pounding in his chest. As he knelt beside the couple, he caught a glimpse of their lives. "Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, please stay with me," he urged, his voice trembling. Their eyes, bright like faded photographs, sparkled with warmth and kindness that spoke of decades spent nurturing their community through their small bakery. "We've fed everyone," Mrs. Anderson whispered, a faint smile tracing her lips through the pain. "Our pastries are sweet, but love is sweeter." It became heartbreakingly clear as they shared tales of their struggles to maintain their beloved store amidst rising costs. Their laughter mingled with sighs, each story a testament to resilience. A bit of America's spirit danced behind their eyes, a spirit on the brink of being snuffed out by the relentless advance of cold corporate machinery. Jack felt torn, his ambition pitted against the humanity unfolding before him. Investors had been pushing him to pivot his tech company towards expansion, threatening local businesses like the Andersons' treasured bakery with faceless franchises that drained neighborhoods of their soul. As he watched the ambulance roar into sight and the couple being whisked away, an urgency settled into his bones. His heart raced not from professional pressures, but from a yearning to hold onto the community spirit the Andersons embodied. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. With their laughter echoing in his mind, Jack rallied neighbors who also felt the loss weigh heavy in their chests. Ideas sparked between them like firecrackers, as they discussed ways to raise funds, organize bake sales, and save the bakery. Faces once foreign now shone with hope, community members becoming allies, bound by a shared dream. Yet, the clock was ticking, and pressure mounted as Jack faced his investors. Would he stand up for the Andersons and the legacy they represented, or would he yield to a journey paved with profit but void of purpose? As the sun dipped below the horizon, wrapping the neighborhood in warm hues, Jack found himself standing at the crossroads of his life, caught between personal ambition and the call of community. Just as a spark flared within, he wondered, could he mold the future by embracing the very heart of connection that had once eluded him? The day after the incident, Jack woke up with a sense of purpose that felt different from anything he had pursued in his life. The golden rays of the sun streamed through his window, but they felt warmer this time, igniting not just a desire to succeed, but a need to reconnect. He could still hear Mrs. Anderson's words ringing in his ears. "Our pastries are sweet, but love is sweeter." As he sipped his morning coffee, he realized the complexity of what lay ahead. Not only was he grappling with the responsibility to help the Andersons, but he was also faced with the glaring contrast of his corporate world, a place where profit often eclipsed passion. Jack grabbed his phone and scrolled through contact names, thinking about the gathering he would host later that evening. It was time to mobilize the community more formally. His fingers hesitated above the keyboard, but the urge to connect outweighed his initial doubts. He typed a quick message, inviting everyone who had expressed interest in helping save the Andersons' bakery. The response came flooding in, dozens committed to attending the meeting. Suddenly, he didn't feel alone anymore. This fight was a shared battle. As evening descended, Jack prepared the small community center for what felt like a momentous occasion. Folding chairs were set up in a circle, vibrant banners draped along the walls promising the joy of baking and community spirit. The smell of coffee wafted through the air, inviting. Yet, it was the arrival of the neighbors that sparked warmth in his heart. When the hall filled with eager faces, Jack stood at the front, nervous yet fueled by the energy of the crowd. They looked up at him with expectation. Parents held children's hands, young adults exchanged smiles, and the elderly offered a sense of wisdom. Each person carried a story that mattered. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice steady. "We're here because we want to save the Andersons' bakery. It's more than just baked goods. It's about the heart of our community. If we don't stand together, we might lose more than a bakery. We lose the bond that nurtures us." The room buzzed with agreement. Ideas ricocheted off the walls: bake sales, community drives, even a social media campaign. Jack felt their enthusiasm igniting his own. He glanced at the back of the room where a young girl held up a picture she had drawn of the bakery, the Andersons smiling beside it. "I want to help too," she proclaimed, her voice a beam of light in the gathering gloom. Amidst the laughter and chatter, Jack's heart swelled with hope. But beneath that hope lay an undercurrent of fear. As plans unfolded, the specter of his investors loomed. What would they say when he chose to divert resources from expansion to saving a small, local business? The priority shift felt monumental, a direct challenge to everything he built. Just before the meeting wrapped, Jack raised his hand for attention. "We have to make a decision. This isn't just about raising money. It's about declaring what we value. Are we willing to stand up for our neighbors?" The cheers that followed were electric, yet the urgency of the moment hung heavy in the air. Jack's heart raced, not just with excitement but also with uncertainty. He had made his choice, but was the community willing to back it? What if his investors pushed back harder than he imagined? As the meeting adjourned, the bonds formed felt fragile yet strong, like freshly baked bread yet to cool. Jack stepped outside, taking a deep breath, his heart a mix of exhilaration and dread. This was just the beginning, and the weight of choice loomed larger than ever. With the sun sinking into the horizon, illuminating the sky with hues of orange and pink, Jack made his way home, contemplating the path ahead. The choice seemed clear, but was he prepared for the consequences and the sacrifices it might demand? The question lingered in his mind, echoing louder with every step he took. What was he truly willing to give up to save a piece of the community he had long overlooked? Jack tossed and turned that night. He couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled in his chest. The promises he made to the community felt monumental, yet the shadow of corporate expectations loomed large. Each thought spiraled back to the bakery, the Andersons, and the warmth it offered. When morning arrived, Jack felt the weight of his decision heavier than ever. Breakfast was a blur. The taste of toast and coffee barely registered as he went through the motions. Reaching for his phone, he noticed a text from Mrs. Anderson. "Thank you for everything, dear. We believe in you." Her simple words ignited something inside him. He knew in that moment that his purpose was not just about saving a bakery. It was about reigniting hope within his community. Determined to act, Jack decided to visit the bakery before heading to work. As he walked through the familiar streets, he could almost hear the hustle and bustle of happy patrons. But today, the building stood quiet, its door locked and its windows covered in a thin layer of dust. He knocked softly. There was no answer. For a moment, he just stood there, heart pounding in the silence. Memories washed over him, the smell of fresh bread, laughter spilling from the kitchen, the warmth of the family that welcomed everyone like their own. It was more than just a bakery. It was a sanctuary. He couldn't let that die. Finally, he took a deep breath and turned to leave. Just then, he heard the familiar jingle of the doorbell as it swung open. Mrs. Anderson stood there, her apron covered in flour, a surprised smile on her face. "Jack, I'm so glad to see you." Mrs. Anderson, I came to help, Jack said, his everyday business attire feeling suddenly out of place. She shook her head gently. We're doing just fine, dear. You don't have to worry, I know. But I want to be part of this, he interrupted. We're rallying the community. This is about more than just your bakery. His voice was fervent, charged with the emotions he hadn't fully articulated before. Her eyes softened, and for a moment, they stood there, a bridge of understanding crossing generations. It means a lot that you care, Jack. But we need to be realistic. As they spoke, Jack felt an urgency bubbling within him. What if we hosted a community cooking day? A chance for people to come together, share stories, and help bake their favorite recipes? It would be fun and we can raise funds. Mrs. Anderson's eyes sparkled. That's a beautiful idea. Everyone has a story tied to baked goods. But will it be enough? I believe it can be, he replied, emboldened by her enthusiasm. I know my investors won't understand, but maybe it's time they saw a different side of the community. Mrs. Anderson clasped her hands together, thoughtful. You're right, but keep in mind, darling, this won't be easy. You'll face criticism from those who think only of profit. Jack nodded, heart racing. He knew the risks involved, yet the thought of fighting for something bigger fueled him like never before. I'm ready to take that step. For you, for the bakery, for everyone. They started brainstorming, laying out plans for the cooking day. The excitement crackled in the air, but beneath that, Jack felt a brewing storm of uncertainty. Would the community rally behind him? Would he have the courage to face his investors with the heart of a community as his shield? As they worked, time slipped by, and soon they were laughing, swapping recipes, and sharing memories. In that moment, with flour dusting their aprons and smiles painted on their faces, Jack realized something incredibly simple yet profoundly true. Love held the power to change everything. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting their workspace in warm hues, he felt a surge of hope and rugged determination. But just as they wrapped up their session, Jack's phone buzzed beside him. He glanced down at the screen. It was a message from his investor. We need to talk. Urgently. Jack's stomach dropped. Reality hit him like a brick. He knew this conversation could change everything. Would he be pushed back to corporate indifference, or could he hold on to the vision he was beginning to believe in? A tight knot formed in his chest. Could he stand firm against pressures that threatened both the bakery and his new direction? As he stood there, the weight of the moment pressed heavily on him. What would he do next? Jack's heart raced as he stood frozen in front of the bakery, the text message looming over him like a storm cloud. The energy from his brainstorming session with Mrs. Anderson faded, leaving behind a sense of dread. He thought of the community they were trying to engage, the hope they were trying to instill, and the fear of failing them felt like a punch to the gut. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. This was not just about a text message from an investor. It was about everything he had started to believe in. He felt a flicker of determination ignite within him. He would not let the weight of corporate pressure crush the voices of the people who needed the bakery. With renewed resolve, he walked back towards Mrs. Anderson, who was tidying up the kitchen. I need to make a call, he said, trying to sound casual despite the whirlwind in his mind. Of course, dear. I'll just be here, she replied, her brows furrowing slightly with concern. Jack stepped outside the bakery, the cool air hitting him like a splash of cold water. The street felt alive around him, but the familiar sounds of laughter and chatter now seemed muted. He dialed the number, each ring tinging in his ear, the anticipation building. Jack? What's going on? The voice on the line sounded impatient. I got your message. You said it was urgent? Jack tried to keep his voice steady, but he could feel adrenaline coursing through him. Yes, it's about the bakery project. The board wants to reassess their funding. They're worried about the community's involvement and how it may divert from our original vision. Jack felt his blood run cold. What do you mean assess? We've only just started involving the community. Exactly. That's the problem, Jack. This is about profit margins, not community sentiment. If you can't focus on returns, we may need to reconsider our investment. He clenched his jaw. But this bakery means something more to these people. It's not just a business. It's their home. Business is business, Jack. We can't afford to lose sight of that. The words spiraled around in his mind like a whirlwind. Jack felt a rush of anger. Maybe you don't understand what this bakery means. Maybe you need to spend some time in this community before making decisions. Listen, you need to decide where your loyalties lie. We're here to build a profitable business. As the conversation ended, Jack dropped his phone into his pocket, feeling like a weight had been dropped onto his shoulders. He took a deep breath, looking back at the bakery, where Mrs. Anderson continued to work. A new thought gnawed at him. What if he wasn't stuck between the investors and his community? What if he could find a way to merge their expectations, show them that a community-driven approach could yield profits? 2. His heart raced as he walked back inside, his mind buzzing with ideas. Mrs. Anderson, he said, catching her attention, what if we invite the investors to the cooking day? Let them feel the heart of the community. She looked at him, a soft smile creeping across her face. That could work, Jack. It's important they see what we're doing here. Exactly. We can showcase the stories behind each dish. They'll see that this bakery is more than just numbers. It's people, history, and love wrapped up in every loaf. Mrs. Anderson nodded. Her eyes brightened with enthusiasm. Let us do this together, Jack. If your heart is in it, it will resonate. But just as hope began to blossom, another message dinged on Jack's phone. He pulled it out and read, I'm coming over tonight. We need to discuss your plans. His stomach twisted again. The urgency of it was undeniable, and the weight of his investor's approach loomed heavily. Would tonight be the moment of truth that would define his commitment to the bakery and the community? Could he find a way to bring both sides together before it was too late? The answers felt suddenly very far away. Jack's mind raced as he returned to the kitchen, his heart pounding against his ribcage like a drum. The thought of the evening meeting gnawed at him, rising like a tide that threatened to drown his efforts. Mrs. Anderson was busy rolling dough, but the sunlight filtering through the window seemed dimmer now. Jack? She called softly, noticing his distraction. What's on your mind? He took a deep breath. I just got a message from the investor. They want to meet tonight. Mrs. Anderson paused, wiping her hands on her apron. Tonight? That's fast. Do you think that's good news, or? I'm honestly not sure, he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. I think they're worried about our direction. They might want to pull funding unless I can prove we can balance community needs and profit. She nodded, understanding washing over her face. This isn't just a project for you, is it? You believe in it. I do, Jack exclaimed, the passion rising in his voice. I believe in these people. They invested in me, in us. This bakery isn't only about the money. It's about families, love, tradition. I just have to show them that those things matter. Mrs. Anderson's eyes shone with pride. You know, Jack, I've been baking since I was a little girl. To me, each recipe isn't just about ingredients but about stories and memories. If you can share that with the investors, it might just change their perspective. He felt a spark of hope. You're right. We need to showcase not just the products, but what they represent. That cooking day could be the key, she encouraged. With the right stories, they might see the value in the community, the heart behind the bakery. Jack nodded enthusiastically. I can picture it now. We'll invite some of the families. They can share their recipes, their stories, and how this place has brought us all together. The investors will feel it. Mrs. Anderson smiled, a warm glimmer lighting her features. Then let us start preparation. Every ingredient in this bakery tells a story, and tonight you will share that. The two busied themselves, working efficiently. The scent of cinnamon swirled in the air as Jack sliced apples for a pie, the comforting aroma easing his tension. He felt the rhythm of the kitchen wrap around him, chopping, stirring, and mixing the ingredients of hope. Hours passed quickly. Time seemed to merge into the frantic yet joyful energy of baking. As Jack carefully placed the fresh pies in the oven, the door jingled, causing him to jump slightly. He turned just as the afternoon light dimmed, revealing a tall figure silhouetted in the doorway. "Jack," the voice boomed, "we need to talk." Jack's heart sank as he recognized the stern outline of his investor. This was it, the confrontation he'd been bracing for. The tension in the room tightened like a noose around his neck. The warmth of the kitchen faded away, leaving a biting chill in its wake. This meeting could determine everything. As he steadied his breath, he thought back to the image of the community, the laughter, the little children running with flour-dusted faces, the elders sharing stories as the sun set. Those memories connected him like roots to a tree. "All right," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Let us talk. But I'm coming into this conversation with my heart, and I hope you'll listen. It's time to know what this bakery truly stands for." As he stepped forward to meet his investor, adrenaline coursed through him. Would he be strong enough to fight for his vision? Would tonight change everything? The answers were about to unfold, but the stakes had never been higher. Would his passion and the community's spirit be enough to sway the very person holding his dreams in their hands? Jack squared his shoulders and stepped into the chilly air of the moment, facing his investor head-on. The man loomed larger than life, a figure of authority draped in a tailored suit that seemed to belong to another world entirely. The tension crackled between them, thick enough to touch. "Jack," the investor began, his voice sharp and unyielding, "I've seen the numbers, and they're not encouraging. You don't have the profit margins I expect. You need a solid plan if you want us to keep funding this venture." Jack's mind raced. He could feel the weight of expectation pressing down on him. "I understand, but it's not just about numbers. It's about the heart of this bakery." He gestured toward the warm, inviting atmosphere around him, the smell of cinnamon and apples swirling in the air. "This isn't just a business to the community. It's a lifeline." The investor remained unmoved, arms crossed tightly over his chest. "That's all very noble, but the reality is it's about belonging." Jack interrupted, his voice rising. The words rushed out like a dam bursting open. "Every pie we make holds a story. Every loaf of bread connects families. I can't let spreadsheets define us. I need you to see that." The investor paused, taken aback by Jack's fervor. The pain of wanting to prove himself was all too real. Jack could see a flicker of curiosity in the man's eyes, but worry creased his brow. "You really think that will sway me?" Jack nodded, feeling the pulse of his dreams beating in sync with the warmth around him. "Give me one chance. We're organizing a community cooking day. The families can come share their stories, their recipes. I want you to see the heart and soul behind this place." The investor hesitated, weighing Jack's sincerity against the harshness of his metrics. "And if I don't? Then I will understand," Jack said, lowering his voice. "But I truly believe what this bakery represents can change everything for us, for this community, and even for you." Silence fell thick like the dough Mrs. Anderson had been preparing. After a moment, the investor uncrossed his arms, loosening his posture just a fraction. "All right, Jack. I'll come to your cooking day. But you better show me something worth investing in." Relief washed over Jack. He couldn't help but smile, but he quickly stifled it, realizing the road ahead was still steep. "Thank you. I promise you won't regret it." The tension slowly lifted from the room, replaced by the warmth that came from knowing he had a chance. As the investor turned and strode toward the door, a knot of fear still gripped Jack. Would it all come together in time? Could he bring the community's voices to life in a way that resonated? "Jack," the investor called back before he exited, and Jack's heart skipped. "I hope you know you can't hide behind the bakery's charm forever." Jack swallowed hard, nodding with a determination that pulsed through him. "I won tea," he said. "I'll show you the truth." With the investor gone, Jack felt a rush of energy flood back into the kitchen. Mrs. Anderson approached with flour-dusted hands, eyes sparkling with pride. "You did well, dear. Now we have so much work to do. Let us make that cooking day unforgettable." Spurred on by excitement, they quickly began planning, gathering stories and recipes from the community. Every mention of an ingredient sparked anticipation. Jack felt alive, fueled by hope and purpose. But as the day of the community cooking approached, lingering doubts crept into Jack's mind. Would the voices of the families truly shine bright enough to pierce through the cold veneer of profit-driven concerns? He looked around the kitchen, feeling the warmth inside, but with a deep-seated anxiety pressing in. What if he couldn't bridge that gap? Time slipped away, and the clock growled towards the day they'd been waiting for. As the sun rose on the morning of the cooking day, he felt the gravity of it all settle in his bones. This was more than a project. It was a lifeline, a moment of truth for him, for them. Would they find the courage to share their stories? Would the world see them as more than just numbers? The answering call of the community was about to unfold, and Jack could only hope that love and unity could pierce through the shadows that loomed ahead. Could this day be the turning point he so desperately needed? The morning sun poured into the bakery like golden syrup, spilling light over freshly baked loaves and pies cooling on the counters. Jack's heart raced, a mix of anticipation and dread weaving through him. Today was the day. The community cooking day was more than just an event. It was a chance to show everyone, especially the investor, that the bakery was so much more than a bottom line. As families began to arrive, Jack greeted them at the door, his smile wide, but his insides twisted in knots. The familiar faces of neighbors, each of them with their own stories, filled the open space. Mrs. Gonzalez arrived first, her arms cradling her grandmother's recipe book like it was a precious heirloom. Behind her, the Johnson family grinned. They were bringing their secret chili recipe, ready to share. "Hey Jack," Mrs. Gonzalez called out. "You ready for some magic?" Her laugh was infectious, lighting up the room. "We're gonna make magic happen," he assured her, though he couldn't shake the fear gnawing at him. What if this didn't resonate? What if the stories didn't come together in a way that could touch hearts? As the cooking stations filled with laughter and chatter, Jack felt a shift. The warmth of community enveloped him like a comforting hug. He remembered why he had fought so hard for this bakery, why the stories of each recipe mattered. These were ingredients that served as bridges between generations. Each whisk and stir carried the soul of their culture, memories bound together by love. The smell of simmering sauces wafted through the air, mingling with the aroma of baked goods. Jack moved among the groups, listening to snippets of shared memories. He saw how cooking brought them together, how old wounds seemed to heal through the act of creation. Cooking was intimate. It was storytelling. Hours flew by, and soon it was time for the story circle. Jack took a deep breath, gathering participants around the long wooden table. "Okay, everyone, can we take a moment? Let us share what these recipes mean to us." One by one, families shared their stories. A grandmother's secret cake that had been passed down for generations, how bread brought families together after long days, the chili that represented unity and remembrance of Sunday dinners. Tears glistened in the corners of some eyes, laughter echoed through the room, and profound silence fell when profound connections were revealed. Just as Jack basked in the magic of their stories, he noticed the investor standing at the back, eyebrows raised, his arms uncrossed. Jack's heart skipped. Was he moved? Then, in the middle of sharing, the unexpected happened. The elderly couple, Mr. and Mrs. McKinney, who had been quiet but present since the beginning, started to sway. Jack's breath caught in his throat as they both collapsed to the floor, their bowls slipping from their hands. The chatter froze, fear rippling through the room. "Get help!" Jack shouted, rushing to them. His heart raced, pounding like a drum in his chest. He knelt beside them, cradling their heads lightly in his hands. "Please, someone call an ambulance." Panic enveloped the room as people scrambled, but something deeper settled within Jack. He gripped their hands, feeling the frail warmth in their clasp. "Stay with me," he whispered, feeling the weight of everything, the stories, the dreams, the community all locking on that fragile moment. Would they hold on? A pulse of hope surged through him, yearning to break through the shadows. The food they shared and the stories they told were powerful. They were life-giving. Would this day culminate in tragedy or show the spirit of the community that Jack believed in? As sirens wailed in the distance, Jack squeezed their hands tighter, waiting with bated breath. What truth would emerge from this moment? The room was thick with tension, every face a portrait of fear and confusion. Jack felt time slow as he held onto Mr. McKinney's hand, which felt so fragile under his grip. He glanced around, searching for a familiar face among the crowd, a doctor perhaps, or even a nurse. But all he saw were wide eyes, some filling with tears. Families were frozen in shock, the laughter and stories of moments ago fading away, replaced by a chilling silence. "Jack, what is happening?" whispered Mrs. Gonzalez, her voice trembling. "They just need some help," he replied, forcing a strong tone to mask his own panic. "Just a little longer." Outside, the sound of the ambulance grew louder. Jack could almost feel their vibrations in his bones, rising like the tension in the room. He couldn't let doubt seep into him. The stories they shared earlier, the ties that bound this community, could not end here. Not like this. Mr. McKinney's face was pale, his breathing shallow. Jack leaned closer, his heart racing as he spoke soothingly. "You're going to be okay. Just hang on. Help is on the way." He could feel Mrs. McKinney's grip slipping. Tears filled her eyes, the worry etched deep in her lined face. "Henry," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I'm right here, Margaret," he murmured, his eyes fluttering open for a brief moment. Jack saw the love there, a flicker of life shining even in that dire moment. As the ambulance finally screeched to a halt outside, Jack felt a collective exhale ripple through the crowd. Paramedics rushed in, quickly gathering the elderly couple with practiced precision. They worked efficiently, withdrawing equipment from their bags, speaking in calm, measured tones that contrasted sharply with the earlier chaos. "Everyone step back, please," one of the paramedics called. Jack reluctantly released his hold, stepping back but keeping his eyes glued to the couple. It wasn't just pain that gripped his heart. It was the fear of losing the connection. They represented the very essence of the community he had rallied for. As they wheeled Mr. and Mrs. McKinney out, the investor stepped forward, his previously aloof demeanor shifting into one of concern. Jack could hardly believe it. Was he really feeling something? Or was it just a performance? He had watched the man's indifferent attitude, and now he stood wide-eyed, the care in his voice unmistakable as he asked the paramedics if they needed any assistance. "Sir, we've got this," one of them responded, but Jack could see the flicker of appreciation in the investor's eye. Perhaps, just perhaps, he was beginning to understand the true value behind the bakery. Beyond profit and loss, as the ambulance doors closed, the community sat in stunned silence, glancing at one another, emotions swelling again. Jack took a step toward the people gathered, facing them, his voice unsteady but determined. "This isn't just about recipes and stories. It's about us. It's about love and connection. Today we share more than just food. We share our lives." A murmur of agreement hummed through the crowd. Jack felt an ember of hope ignite once more, rekindled by the sheer resilience of those around him. Just as he began to rally them for a group discussion about next steps, the importance of coming together, his phone vibrated in his pocket. A message lit up the screen. It was from the investor, chilling in its simplicity. "Let us talk." Jack's stomach twisted again. What did that mean? What would he say? He took a deep breath, knowing that this moment and its aftermath were only the beginnings of something much bigger. The path ahead remained uncertain, but he could feel the air shifting, hearts opening. Today might still reveal its truth. What would they discover together next? The crowd was still buzzing with shock and confusion. Jack could feel their hearts beating as one, a rhythm of shared worry. He looked down at his phone again, the blinking screen beckoning him back to the reality of the investor's message. Adrenaline surged through him. This was both a lifeline and a looming threat, a fork in the road that could change everything. "Jack?" Mrs. Gonzalez's voice cut through the haze. "What did the message say?" He took a moment to gather his thoughts, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "He wants to talk about the bakery." Their eyes widened in surprise and concern. Mrs. Gonzalez stepped closer, her hand resting on Jack's arm. "Are you sure that's a good idea? He doesn't know anything about us or our community," she uttered, her voice trembling again. He might not, Jack replied, feeling the weight of his responsibility settle on his shoulders. But maybe it's time he found out. A renewed sense of urgency flickered through him. Maybe this was a chance to show the investor the heart of the bakery, the warmth of the community he had overlooked. But what if he didn't get it? What if all the work that had been done in breaking down walls only crumbled at the first interaction? As if reading his mind, Mrs. Gonzalez squeezed his arm tighter. Just be careful, Jack. You have to protect what we have here. He nodded, determination welling up inside him. I will. The sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the somber room. The paramedics had pulled away with Mr. and Mrs. McKinney, but the evidence of their love lingered like a sweet fragrance, an unbreakable bond reflected in every glance exchanged within the community. Jack turned his attention back to the group. All right, everyone. We've faced something tough today, but we can channel that energy into something positive. Let us gather our thoughts on the bakery, on the stories that matter, and what truly makes us who we are. The group nodded, a fire igniting in their eyes. Ideas bubbled up, voices rose. What if we host a community event? Someone suggested. A day to celebrate the bakery's history and our connections? Maybe we can invite the investor to see it firsthand. Another voice chimed in, practical and keen. Jack's heart soared a bit. It felt right, like a way of reclaiming their narrative together. Let us put together a plan, then. We can show him how important this place is to all of us, Jack said, igniting enthusiasm. The chatter of possibilities filled the air, filling it with hope. Suddenly, Jack's phone buzzed again. His pulse raced as he swiped to read the new message. I can meet tomorrow at the bakery. Let us see what makes it special. The time was set. Jack glanced up, excitement mingling with fear. There was so much riding on this meeting, and he had to be ready. As they planned, the atmosphere shifted, lifting the previous weight of fear. Jack could see the community rallying, transforming that worry into momentum. Words like legacy, togetherness, and family echoed through the room, knitting them closer, binding their hearts to a common goal. But beneath the surface, doubt lingered. Could one meeting truly change the investor's perception? Would his heart truly open, or would he only see numbers on a piece of paper? As everyone continued to brainstorm, Jack caught a glimpse of the bakery's door. The thought of standing in that sacred space, standing up for everything it represented, gave him strength. Tomorrow will be the day, he whispered to himself, feeling the collective spirit of his community surrounding him. And then, an unexpected thought struck him. What if the real revelation was not just the investor discovering the truth about the bakery, but each of them discovering the truth of what they meant to one another? What would happen if this turned into something more than they had ever imagined? The sun climbed higher in the sky, painting the bakery in a warm glow as Jack paced in front of its welcoming facade. Today was the day he'd unveil the heart of the community to the investor. The air crackled with excitement, but anxiety nibbled at his resolve. What if it wasn't enough? As families began to gather, Jack could feel the energy buzzing through the air, but his stomach twisted with uncertainty. Would the love and stories of the Andersons, the McKinneys, and everyone who had come together be convincing enough to change one man's mind? Mrs. Anderson arrived first, the familiar sparkle in her eyes illuminating the space. Jack, are you ready? She asked, hands dusted with flour. Ready as I'll ever be, he replied, a nervous smile slipping onto his face. They moved into the bakery, transforming it into a canvas of stories. Decorations adorned the walls, pictures of the Andersons' bakery cornered with handwritten notes from the community, each detailing what the bakery meant to them. The whir of mixers and the sweet scent of pastries melding with laughter filled the once quiet space. Soon after, the investor appeared, stepping through the bakery door with an air of skepticism that sent a shiver down Jack's spine. So this is what you wanted me to see, he said coolly, folding his arms. Jack inhaled deeply, summoning every ounce of courage. Yes, he said, voice steady, I wanted you to feel what this bakery represents. It's not just about profit. It's about love, history, and community. The participants gathered around, excitement bubbling. He motioned toward a large table brimming with baked goods, each a custodian of stories waiting to be told. Let us share with you the heart of what we've built here. Families took turns sharing their recipes, each storytelling moment painting a vibrant picture of life, woven together by tradition and belonging. Mrs. Johnson spoke of her grandmother's pie, a recipe stemming from a simple act of love between generations. Young faces beamed as they recounted times shared in the bakery, simple moments transformed into treasured memories. The investor listened, the initial hardness in his expression beginning to thaw. Jack caught a flicker of something, a glimmer of curiosity or maybe even connection. Then came the moment that none of them expected. Suddenly, a soft voice interrupted from the crowd, a little girl holding a sweet, handmade cake. "This is for you, Mr. Investor," she said with a shy smile. "It's my mom's recipe, and it makes people happy." Her innocence cut through the air, and the room went silent. The investor knelt down, accepting the cake. As he did, Jack saw a shift. A smile crept onto the investor's lips, a silent acknowledgement of the joy each recipe brought. The farewell stories folded into a single moment of profound silence. "I never realized," the investor finally said, voice softer now, "that a bakery could be a home." Jack felt hope swell inside him, hope that could change everything. "It is their home," he confirmed, "and it reflects the heart of this community." The investor looked around, taking in the faces filled with pride and joy in sharing their heritage. "You all have something special here," he admitted, the ice breaking away in his heart. "Maybe I was too quick to judge. This place has more value than any spreadsheet can capture." As Jack listened, relief flooded through him. Yes, they had reached him. He stepped forward, voice firm yet gentler. "If you invest in this bakery, you invest in love. You support families, memories, and resilience. Together, we can create not just profits, but a legacy." The investor nodded slowly, the weight of the moment settling around them. "Let us reshape our partnership," he said, a renewed sense of purpose in his voice. "I want to be part of this community." Joy erupted in the bakery, laughter ringing like music. Jack felt tears prick his eyes as Mrs. Anderson grasped his arm. "You did it, Jack. You brought the heart home." At that moment, everything felt possible. The stories had transcended charts and numbers. They united everyone in a tapestry of hope and shared dreams. The investor smiled into the crowd. "I want to roll up my sleeves and help flourish what you have built." The voices around him cheered, certainty replacing fear as the community embraced their victory. As the sun dipped lower, casting a golden glow over the bakery, Jack realized that he hadn't just fought to save a business. He had unearthed the lifeblood of a community, binding lives together in ways that truly mattered. And as laughter and joy danced in the air, he knew they had begun a journey that would echo for generations to come, a harmonious chorus of love that would never fade. So when the moment felt right, Jack raised his glass, turning to his community with a radiant smile. "Here's to love, to stories, and to every single one of you. May we always remember what matters most. Let us move forward together." And if you felt the same inspiration today, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for our story. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, every bit helps. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. They'll thank you for it.